Kamala Harris continues to be a, power-seizing, empty suit with absolutely no moral foundation beyond whatever is required for her to say in order to achieve power. And I'll be frank with you, honestly, I have to find ways to care about talking about Kamala Harris. There's nothing more to be said about her. That's the extent of what she is. She's moral vapor. She is willing to fit into any container. She's willing to take on any shape necessary for her to achieve more power. And this shows through on her nervous laugh, which we're told is joy. It's not. It's someone who's suffering imposter syndrome. She knows she is not qualified for any of this, which is why she's obviously constantly nervously laughing. But this has to do with the serious topic of a woman being killed because of abortion laws. That's why she was killed. That's what Kamala Harris says. And so I was thinking about how to, make myself care about her. I realized I don't. I don't care a whit about Kamala Harris. I'm supposed to. I'm supposed to love my enemy, and she is your enemy. Even if you're voting for her, she's your enemy. I'm not quite able to love her, but I can love a young woman I never met who was victimized. And I can love her in this way. For me, it's helpful to compare things in other people's lives to mine. Mine is way, way, way down the list of concerns. Amber Thurman died. Oh, incidentally, so did her unborn child. I compare this back to the journey I had at SEAL Fit the Kokoro program when Curtis, the medic, and I were talking about the fact that I hadn't produced urine in about 9 hours. And the way he told me was so empathetic. And the way he said it was, look, this is not what you want to hear. You obviously want to be here. I've seen you putting out. I suggest you do not continue. And he saw me like, I wanted to cry, but I didn't have the liquid tears. Tear ducts were open, no liquid there. And he said, listen, this isn't worth you being on kidney dialysis for the rest of your life. And that could happen to you. He said, I'm not saying it is. I'm not saying you're that messed up, but I'm saying, he said, I'm just saying this could be a result of this. This isn't good. And you could at least be doing kidney damage now. You could be developing rhabdo, and that's the thing you don't want to get. So what's the comparison? He told me an uncomfortable truth. And then he said this, hey, honestly, Herman, at your age, I'm saying, I'm sorry, but it's harder. It's harder for your body to go through things like this at your age. You're 57. Most of these guys are in their 20s. It was a hard truth to tell. You know what else it was? A man who'd never met me before that day, who hadn't spoken to me until about 2 hours prior when I revealed to him I hadn't been able to pee. And he took that stance of telling a hard truth. He's the opposite of Kamala Harris. The opposite. He stood with me through that whole time and actually made me drink 1.5 gallons of electrolytes, like pretty much force-fed it, like drink, drink, drink. Kamala Harris is the complete opposite of this, particularly in the case of Amber Thurman. Now, Amber wasn't suffering dehydration from something she decided to put herself through. She was trying to terminate a pregnancy. I'll tell you what Kamala Harris did about this in just a second. Having been surrounded for that period of time that I was in this program by Navy SEALs, and I never did ask which one of them were still active and which were retired, I came away with a greater form of respect for people who make it through that program. And I've got a very dear friend who didn't just make it through the program. He did 3 tours of duty, 3 deployments on our behalf. Tim Cruikshank, the founder and CEO of Bone Frog Coffee, has become a dear and really valued friend and confidant. He knows things about me I never thought I'd tell a Navy SEAL, particularly about my weaknesses. He founded his coffee company to honor men like Coach Rob and Coach Clint, some of the guys I was at that program with, and I don't know them well. I was with them for 10, maybe 13 hours. I don't know them well. I just know them to be men of honor. So when you get your first bag of Bone Frog coffee, you're going to see the Bone Frog on it. That's an insignia for a fallen Navy SEAL. When you open the coffee, you're going to be opening coffee that was in all likelihood made and always mentored by, the coffee making, always mentored by Dave Stewart, who started Seattle's Best Coffee. You'll smell it when you open the bag. When you drink it, you'll taste it. The years of research, 3 years that went into, for instance, the Goat Locker blend, a very dark French roast with none of the bitterness. You're going to taste that. So do this. Get the sample pack. You can try all sorts of roasts and blends. Go to bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. You get 10% off your first purchase. That's a sample pack. If you're already buying Bone Frog, upgrade. Go God Country Team the whole way and subscribe to the coffee. That's bonefrogcoffee.com/Todd. You get 15% off subscription coffee. This is Kamala Harris lying about Amber Thurman.
She was so proud. And she was headed to nursing school. And her name, and we will speak her name, Amber Nicole Thurman. Amber Nicole Thurman.
Amber Nicole Thurman.
That's right. And she had her future all planned out. And it was her plan.
What was her plan? Her plan at that moment was to ingest a day after pill or a plan B. Mephistrone, misoprostol. No, I can't say it. Can you? She decided to do this by end the life of a human being whose life had begun within her. Incidentally, do you know when the sperm and egg join, do you know what happens? No, if you watch it up close, there's a burst of light. Let there be light. That happens. And then the darkness came. This from the Federalist. It's worth noting that the FDA's 2000 approval of these drugs acknowledged its risks and enacted safety requirements, including a 7-week gestational limit requiring women to see a physician in person and a mandatory one-time abortion appointment to confirm that the uterus was empty and the bleeding had subsided. The FDA also required manufacturers of the abortion pill to report all adverse health events that were reported to them, such as infection or excessive bleeding, not just patient deaths. But thanks to Democrat efforts to relax safety requirements for abortion pills, important safeguards no longer apply. When Thurman experienced, quote, complications from the abortion, which ProPublica ironically asserts were rare, she went to the hospital for a D&C. ProPublica claims Thurman had told doctors her miscarriage was not spontaneous. It was a result of taking pills to terminate her pregnancy. Thurman was not experiencing a miscarriage. She had undergone an abortion. Her unborn twins had already died, and she had retained parts of their bodies or the placenta, a known complication of the abortion pill use, and one of the very reasons the FDA's requirement for a post-abortion follow-up visit with a doctor. What Harris did is what Harris does. She lied. She lied about how this young woman died. Now, what if Curtis had decided to do the same thing with me? What if he'd looked at how badly I wanted to remain in Kokoro? What if, in fact, I'd done what I was thinking of doing, was going to the coaches and saying, hey, you said we can stretch. Does that include warming up some kipping pull-ups just in case we're going to do Murph next? And let's say that those kipping pull-ups were the thing my body needed to unlock the cramps. Let's just say that happened. Let's just say that I started going through Murph. Let's just say that happened. And I do my 1 mile run. And let's say I succeed in that 1 mile run. And the cramps aren't yet back. And let's say that I jump up on that bar and I'm doing kipping pull-ups when the cramp hits. And I fall back on my head and now I've got a broken neck. Or my kidneys are totally shot when I get done. And I do have rhabdo. And I am bleeding in my urine. Then what? Because Curtis could have said, hey, dude, shake it off. Rub some dirt on it. You're good. And you know what? I would have believed him. Because I wanted to believe. And there are people who want to believe Kamala Harris. They want to believe. Because they need to believe. Because for many, abortion is a sacrament. I said sacrament. So much of this goes back to the Word of God, which is why it's so convenient that Kamala Harris, a woman defined by her faith, doesn't have a single moral stance that withstands the slightest pressure to change in the face of pursuit of power.